Ladies and gentlemen, may I please have your attention? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, welcome everybody. Thank you guys for joining us today. If you're here live, say hi, tell us where you're at in the chat. Also guys, if you're joining us after the replay, please share this video out, like and share, do that. It helps everybody out here. Follow Being Monica over on YouTube and also here at BB3 TV. So guys, today we have an awesome show in store. I'm with Being Monica, as I said, and my good friend Denise. Denise, please do me a favor, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. So what I do is I'm a Reiki master. So I practice Reiki holistic healing. In addition to that, I am a psychotherapist specializing in trauma and PTSD, and I practice within the state of Pennsylvania.
That's awesome. So what kind of got you into Reiki?
Reiki.
Okay, yeah. What got you into that?
Yeah. So, I've always been into the more esoteric approaches to mental health, to healing and wellness and all of that. And in about 2016, my cousin, who at the time was a nurse, a cardiac nurse, she came over and she said, "Hey, I just got attuned to Reiki." I'm like, "What the hell's Reiki?" And then I started hearing all about it everywhere I went. My mother-in-law was telling me about it. And I attended like a workshop with her around it. And then my cousin and I were talking and she said, I'll come over and do a healing for you so you can really experience it and see what it is. And she came over. She worked on me for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And what I felt afterwards was the most inner peace I think I felt ever, maybe ever. It was amazing. And as we sat in my basement, I was like, you have to tell me how you got into this and you have to tell me how I can also do this for other people because this is amazing. And she said that as a nurse, they were offering it as a service through her hospital. So the hospital, which is like, you wouldn't think that a medical facility would endorse this and let alone provide training for their staff. But they offered it. And she started working on patients in her unit, which was the cardiac unit. She would also go to hospice, to labor and delivery, and just offer these adjunctive services. And that's what they are. They're adjunctive to medical treatment. And it was really great how she got trained through a mainstream healthcare organization. And then she trained me for my first level of training. And I'll talk about that in a little bit too, like what the levels are. But she trained me for my first level of training. And then in 2020, I earned level 2 and level 3, which is the master level. And I've been practicing it ever since. Most of the time, it's just with friends and family. Sometimes people will contact me just for that. But I do bring it into my therapy practice as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Denise, can you actually explain what is happening when a Reiki session is taking place? What is actually happening?
Yeah, so Reiki is, I guess the best way I could describe it is to kind of talk about what Reiki is and just to talk about, why it's like how it even gets to that point, like to the point of something happening. Mm-hmm. So for those that don't know what Reiki is, it's spelled REIKI. It's a Japanese energy healing technique, and the word translates into universal life energy or universal life force. It's the idea that we all have this universal energy within us. The body's our energy, that's measurable. We know that. So with Reiki, with a Reiki session, the practitioner places their hands either on the body or just above the body to help release energetic blocks and activate the body's natural healing processes. You may have heard about the chakras. The way I do Reiki is I try to balance the body's 7 chakras throughout the whole system and just bring everything into alignment and natural flow. So Reiki is not tied to any religion or belief system. It's completely its own thing, but it's similar to, we've heard a lot about this in recent years, but mindfulness. So it's similar to other therapeutic modalities that focus on relaxation and nervous system regulation and restoring balance. So it's a somatic practice, meaning felt in the body. It's just without any kind of physical manipulation or medical intervention. So what's happening during the session itself is dependent on, it's very individual. Everybody feels it or doesn't feel it differently. And with Reiki, we believe that even if the person who's receiving it doesn't feel anything, then that doesn't mean it's not working. So to not feel something is just as normal as it is to feel everything. Some people cry, some people fall asleep, some people have like a very guttural release of emotion. Some people just really relax and they feel more open and present and in tune to their own emotions and what's happening within their own body and with their nervous systems. So really it depends on the individual who's receiving it, and no 2 Reiki sessions for people are alike. Sometimes when I've received it, sometimes it feels one way and sometimes it feels a completely different way from time to time. Yeah.
Is there like a time limit or length of time that it takes to actually like start to feel and notice the effects of Reiki?
No, it's theoretically it can happen right away, but after Reiki sessions, the Reiki will go where it needs to go. It will always go where it's most needed. And if you need more of it and you request more of it, of your own energy, more will be available to you. And
can you elaborate on that? You said the Reiki will go where it needs to go. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so Reiki being your energy within your body, that will go where in your body it's most needed. So say you're blocked in your sacral chakra region, right in the lower part of the pelvis below the navel. And there's some, creative blocks or emotional blocks in that area, which is that's the chakra that governs creativity and intimacy and sexuality, things like that. Say there's some blocks there. If there's more Reiki needed in that area, that's where the Reiki will go. And you don't really have to ask for it. When the practitioner balances you, the idea is that if more energy is needed in that area, that all you have to do is ask for it and more will go to that area because that's where it's most needed.
Wow.
So looking at the comment on the screen right here, all right, he says he was physically and mentally broke in 1991, just months after getting out of the court-ordered military service. He was abused as a kid, and both physically and mentally. How could you help somebody with these types of situations? Now, because for you can come at this 2 different ways, because you're also a psychotherapist, a licensed psychotherapist. So you could probably help somebody like this on multiple different levels. Yeah,
definitely. So from a therapeutic standpoint, I work with some veterans. I work with a lot of first responders, sexual assault survivors, domestic violence survivors, people, just survivors of all kinds of trauma. And the way that I approach therapy is very experiential, meaning, there's interventions involved. And my gold standard for somebody like that who would be, having experiences like what this person is saying would be EMDR, if they're a good candidate for it. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it pretty much the industry standard for PTSD and other forms of trauma. It's by no means the only one, but it's so evidence-based, and I've had a lot of success with it. But for something like this, it sounds like there's complex trauma, meaning there's multiple incidents of trauma, multiple things that have happened. so it's not single incident like a car accident or a plane crash or something like that. So you want to tread very carefully and treat each incident and each problem within a network of memories and experiences, and you want to treat them separately until the emotional charge around all of them is decreased. So that's that's a Cliff's Notes version. From a Reiki perspective, you know, some people are so disconnected from their bodies after experiencing trauma, and trauma is trapped in the body. The brain thinks that this is happening over and over again. And when the body feels a certain way, or there's some sort of trigger, then that automatically signals to the brain that there's an active threat. And so with Reiki, if I'm doing Reiki on an individual like that, we really focus on mindfulness and nervous system regulation and being in touch with your body and feeling safe and stable in the body. And Reiki being so relaxing can really help with that. But I take it very slow because not everybody can lay there with their eyes closed and have somebody's hands on them. So it's very much a slow burn sometimes to build up to that. But it takes however long it takes. And then sometimes it's helpful. Yeah, sometimes it's really helpful. And there's no, with Reiki, and speaking of the Reiki and trauma connection, when you're engaging in Reiki, there's nothing that the recipient needs to do. Nothing. They just need to lay there and relax and be in tune and allow it to flow and happen. So there's no need to talk about the thing that you're there to talk about, or any trauma that you've been through, or any mental health issue that you're having. All you have to do is receive and be open to receiving and consent to that. So in that way, it's very freeing, because sometimes a lot of people come to a therapy session and they feel like they have to just talk, and that's just not the case. So I think that, you know, Reiki in that regard can really help with support nervous system regulation.
How do you decide that Reiki is the method you're going to use on an individual?
Well, in my therapy practice, it's not the only method that I use. It's an adjunctive service because I'm in clinical practice. So we focus heavily on clinical work, and Reiki would be like a grounding pathway, or, you know, a grounding exercise, something to induce calm and relaxation and, you know, bring them back into their body and into the present moment. So how I decide Reiki is good for everybody. The only downside to Reiki that I would be hesitant with is someone who is extremely reactive to either physical touch or physical proximity, or they didn't want it. If they didn't want it, then I'm not going to do it on them, because consent is everything. Mm-hmm. But even if they are not, and I wouldn't do this in psychotherapy practice, but even if they are not within my physical space, so like in the same room as me, I can do, because I'm at master level, I can do distance Reiki. And distance Reiki can be done either like online, virtual, or it can be done without the person even knowing that it's happening at a specific time. Like I could say, hey, Monica, I'm doing distance. I'm going to do distance Reiki on you tonight. I'll do it around 9 o'clock or so. And, you know, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to lay down while I'm doing it. I don't have to text you and say, hey, I'm done. How did you feel? It's being done. So energy transcends time and space. That's the belief. It's always present. You can't create it or destroy it. And so I'm working with your energy, even from a distance. And I guess I want to be clear, I'm not sending anybody energy. That's not how Reiki works. Reiki is bringing your energy into balance, which is within you. And I'm using my energy as a vehicle to help that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay. Devil's advocate here. Let's just say I'm a skeptical person, right? You have to have a certain amount of belief in that this is going to work, right?
Yes.
You actually have to, it comes down to your mental state of being to be able to accept something like this.
Yeah. You mean the recipient or me?
Well, the recipient, even as the master, I would imagine, and obviously you're the master, you believe in this, obviously, or you wouldn't be practicing it, or you wouldn't even be discussing it. But, as a recipient, I have to be able to put myself into a state of mind where I can accept this type of thing and believe that it's going to actually work for me. Yeah.
There has to be consent at the very least. You don't have to 100% buy into it for it to work. It will work.
Oh, wow.
it will do what it needs to do and go where it needs to go. But in and of itself, it's not going to convince you. If you don't believe it, if you don't think that it's possible to help you, then you're going to block that for yourself.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, may have heard some of this somewhere before.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, so, Monica and I have had conversations about this. Matter of fact, we just kind of had one today. All right. And
Oh, you dare.
and no, there's no buses coming. I'm not throwing you under anything that's moving. All right. She's very passionate about her belief system. She's gotten herself to a point where this is just the way she lives. She has a very positive outlook on everything. Okay. Now, it's harder for other people to reach that. You have to be able to take each person on an individual basis, and that person is going to respond differently to what you believe in, to what you practice, to what you're teaching. It's going to be received differently by each person individually, right? So Monica is just so good at being positive all the
I don't
time.
like the word positive, by the way.
Okay, you don't, but it's what it is, right? I mean, you're just not negative. Everything's bad, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
I'm spiritual. I'd like to use that word. I'm
Okay.
connected.
That's a beautiful thing. All right. Now I'm actually reading a book. I'm reading a book about literally becoming spiritual. And no, Monica did not recommend that book to me. It's a book that I came across myself. And
I want to read it, actually.
It's Dr. Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
It's great.
He is fantastic. I just, again, when you come up a certain way, okay, Monica says that, quote, they're excuses. I've made excuses, but I disagree with that because, and maybe you can help me out here, Denise. Get my back on this one.
Blockage.
What it is here for me is you're talking to a guy who was brought up in a difficult family situation. Okay. Finding out that my father wasn't my father at the age of 27 was a shock to my system. Okay. And the way that I found that out was very horrible for me. So how does somebody like me who grew up in a very negative situation where, there was physical and mental abuse, alcohol and drug abuse, things of that nature. Okay. I would never, ever look at somebody and assume that I'm using something like that as an excuse. It's literally been beaten into me and it's been encoded into my DNA. And how do you break away from something like that and move past it, to where you can accept these types of things, or even touching on like the law of attraction? You have to have a certain amount of belief that that's going to happen. You have to believe in what you're asking for, like you already have it, and I can accept that. But how do you keep your brain, which has been programmed for decades, from allowing all that negativity in? How do you do it?
Well, I'll start with a question is, do you want to do it?
Stop it, young lady.
Resistance. I keep telling him we have to have a conversation about resistance. It's because when you decide that you want to move past it, right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, yes. It's not always a conscious choice. It's a place you get to.
Okay. Okay.
I can. Just when you get to it, but if you don't want it, you will resist it, and what we resist persists.
Okay, but I've wanted to be free of this nagging stress or this. I mean, I'm surrounded by negativity. Yeah. You and I have had private conversations, Denise. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So I'm surrounded by all of this all the time. I can make a conscientious decision and say, yeah, I'm done with this. But what was it require of me? Separating myself from the situation, right?
In some ways, yeah. In some ways, yeah. But what does separating yourself from it mean to you?
That's a loaded question. It's a loaded question.
Because it can be like physical, and it can be mental, and it can be emotional. It can be all those things, and it's different levels, and it's It's what you're ready for and how you choose to do it. Denise.
Exactly.
So, all right. So let's say I come to you and I want to hire you. I want to be. Hey, there's the wife right now. I want to be involved in your practice. Okay. I want you to help me. All right. Where do we start? Knowing what you know about me, where do we start?
Oh, so I do know you? Is that so?
All right.
So like, say,
All right.
He's
No.
contacted you and he says, I feel like I need your services.
yeah.
There you go.
So we're gonna assume that you're a stranger, which is my clients, right? Like I don't treat people I know or that I'm close to.
Right.
For ethics reasons. But say you're a stranger, I always start with letting them know, that they've taken the first step already. They made the appointment. They showed up to the appointment. They're there. Even if they didn't, like even court-appointed people that I've worked with a few of, they have a level of investment because they see it as a means to an end. And if that's what gets them in the door and gets them started and I can work with them, great. But the fact that you show up, that's step one. Where I start is building the therapeutic relationship. I don't get started right away on like, let's tackle your childhood. Tell me what happened when you were 10. That's not the way to go. We want to develop this rapport and safety and trust. And throughout that process, I'm doing a history taking. So because I specialize in trauma, it's not just behaviors that people want to change. Like I want to stop being so anxious, or I want to stop, I want to improve my depression. I'm talking about healing broken parts of us and deep wounded parts of us. So it takes time. And if you don't trust the person that you're in front of, then you're not going to want to open up to them. You're not going to believe that they can help you. And if you show up every week or twice a week or however often I see you, that leads me to believe that you believe that I can help you and that you want to be helped. And that is the perfect starting point. That's where I start with everyone. What's your readiness for change? What do you want to change? People say, I want to stop doing this, this, and this. I say, fuck that. Don't tell me what you want to stop doing. Tell me what you want to start doing.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a complete shift away from that,
100%.
Which is good. I mean, obviously your whole purpose of what you do is to take and shift the attention away from that, which has brought them into your front door in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It shifts the narrative completely and they get quiet. They're like, I have no idea how to articulate that. Okay, that's fine. Then that's where we start. And then throughout that, like I said, I'm doing history taking. I'm trying to figure out, what's most important to the person. We talk about identity and values, not just morals. Values and morals are different. People think they're the same, but values are just what's important to you. And we talk and we talk and we talk. And I don't ask anybody to divulge a single detail about their trauma unless they want to. I make it very clear from the beginning. You don't have to sit here and say, and this happened and that happened and da. That's not what it's about. It's more about developing that relationship and the rest happens organically. Once the trust is built, and that trust in me and our therapeutic relationship is what allows you to trust yourself and to trust that when you go to those deepest, darkest places, that you'll be okay, because not only do I have you, but you have you. So before we get into deeper trauma work, I really focus on stabilization and resourcing, making sure that folks have, people that they can talk to, things that they can do that make them happy or that bring them joy or give them something to look forward to. Because when they have that, when shit gets hard in between sessions, they'll be able to have more resilience around it.
That makes perfect sense.
You have a YouTube video out there on the Phoenix Trauma Center that Dustin and I both watched, and I think it encompasses everything you do, and it's very helpful in understanding what you do. And there's a lot of good things that you mentioned in that video. One that really stuck with me is that you work with people at any level that they're at, in any comfortability that they're at. So when they're coming to you, you're not coming with your pad of paper and you sit there and you do the usual. You're going to understand that individual different than anybody else you've ever seen and work with them at that level. I think that's very respectable. How did you usually, when you think of somebody who you're going to see for therapy, that's what you're thinking. They're sitting in a chair and you're sitting across from them in a sofa. But now you're bringing in spirituality and you're bringing in these different kinds of modalities that aren't necessarily mainstream to psychiatry or psychology. So how did you develop bringing that into your method?
Yeah, that's a great question. So spirituality is something that can kind of get overlooked in clinical practice sometimes by some practitioners, but it's definitely getting a lot more traction now more than ever, because people are looking to find meaning and purpose in life, and a lot of them are looking to a spirituality for that. What got me to taking that approach, number one, was seeing a lack of it. And number two, in my previous career, I was for 25 years, just about 24, 25 years, I worked in Division III athletics as an athletics administrator at a Division III university. And it was it was a Catholic Franciscan college, is a Catholic Franciscan college. And our sports teams each have a team chaplain. We call them chaplains as if, it's kind of a misnomer, but because we're not ordained or anything, but it's basically the team therapist, the team, cool aunt, which is what my volleyball team called me, the cool aunt. Just an extra person to give them support and to help them along the way. So staff members from across the university. And the volleyball team adopted me in 2009. And I was a chaplain there until I left the university last year in 2024. And so that was my pathway to going to grad school for clinical mental health counseling. And that was also my pathway for bringing in spirituality and, finding that higher meaning and purpose into my therapeutic practice. So spirituality is not the same as religion. You know that. Spirituality can be anything from Reiki, from energy healing, to connection to creation and the earth, to more secular religions like, Catholicism, Christianity, things like that. It's what you make of it. It's all about your personal power, your connection to whatever your higher power looks like. And there's been numerous studies, so many studies that show that folks that have a connection to a higher being or power or force greater than them, whether it's God or whoever, or whatever, even it doesn't matter. When they have a connection to something that's outside of them, greater than them, transcending them, that they heal better, they heal faster, they become more resilient. And I noticed that. I've noticed it with my clients. I've noticed it with my team, myself, for sure.
Yeah, because you have a faith in a bigger picture. And if you have faith in that, you're able to understand that you can get out of anything because there's more.
Yes. And that faith is in whatever you believe in at first, but then you realize that the faith becomes in yourself. You begin, like I said, to trust yourself and to believe that you can get through what you need to get through because you've done that in the past and because you have you've learned the skills, you have the resources. When you trust yourself and have faith in yourself, you really can get through pretty much anything because you have no choice.
Let me ask you a question to kind of take this another route out of curiosity. Okay? I'm a Christian. Okay. And as a Christian, we go by the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. And so what would you say to somebody that, again, I'm a little bit more open-minded than, some of your standard Christians, you know what I mean? I believe that God is more than we could even comprehend, you know what I mean? So I don't put labels on God. I don't dare to have the audacity to do that. Mm-hmm. That being said, what do you say to the Bible thumping, for lack of better terms, Christians that say what you do is completely against God's teaching? It's against all of that. How do you tackle something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have had that happen. I've definitely had that happen. And that's what they believe. That I'm Catholic. I believe that, if God puts a skill in front of me and a pathway to healing and connection that enhances my relationship with him, then then there's a reason. He knows the plan. I don't know the plan. I don't have all the answers. But to somebody that doesn't believe, I respect that 100% wholeheartedly. They don't have to do this. They don't have to take this pathway, and I don't have to do it with them. I have some clients in my practice that are very religious, very connected to Christianity, Catholicism in particular. And I don't even mention Reiki with them. I don't mention spirituality. What I mention with them, because it's meaningful, is prayer, because that's how they approach their religion, and that's how their religious connection works for them. So that's the in for me. If that's what works for them, even if I don't believe it, that's what's going to be most helpful to the client, for sure.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that also kind of opens the door for you to be a better therapist too. You're connecting with these people individually, and you're also not, you're not labeling them or judging them, and I think that's going to make it a little bit more of a comfortable situation if I'm trying to approach you to help me with something that's very deeply personal to me.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, that goes back to what Monica was saying about the video on my practice, but I meet the clients where they are, with their, not just where they are in life, but their level of openness to change, their level of openness to therapy and treatment, and me, how they want to be in a session. I have a couch, they can lay on it. I have a floor. I have some clients that just sit on the floor, and I take my shoes off and sit down with them. I don't sit in the chair with a notepad. Sometimes we draw things together. Sometimes we write lists and things like that together. But I have cards and stones and crystals and fidget things and comfy blankets and pillows that they can relax into. And when they're calm and they're feeling safe and comforted in the environment, it just opens them up a little bit more. And it's like, I don't have a very sterile office at all. It's officey, but it's not sterile at all. I let all of my clients know they can sit there with their hands folded on the couch, feet on the floor, the entire hour if they want to. And I'll mirror that for them. But if they want to, they can, sit with their back against the wall. They can, within reason, get comfortable. And that's just my way of meeting them where they are in that moment and giving them what they need in that moment. And you can see them visibly relax when they're able to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is there a way for you to incorporate both the psychotherapy side of what you do and Reiki? Are you allowed to kind of meld both of those practices into one session?
Yes. Yeah. So my practice is really open to this, but I have to approach it where I'm not doing just Reiki in a session. They're not coming to me just for that.
Oh, I was going to ask, what if I want Reiki every time?
Well, there's some clients that I do Reiki with every single time. There's some that I do, but it's like the last 15 minutes of session. Okay. And we do it to kind of create that stability and just, help them relax and feel present and feel good. And they feel the healing. I have clients that feel it so strongly that they do want it every time. But the first 45 minutes or so, we're focusing on the clinical work that they're there to do, because they're paying me good money. My rate is not cheap, and they're paying me good money to get past and through some horrific trauma sometimes. Sometimes it's really, really bad. So that's what they're there to do. Reiki in that sense is a adjunctive, a supportive resource. It's just another resource that they can use. Yeah. And I do it both in person, clients I see in person, and on telehealth too, because I do both telehealth and in person.
So how do you, and maybe people don't ask you this much because you're always the therapist. All right. How do you personally deal with all of that stuff that's coming at you? Because let's be honest, you're opening yourself up to a lot of people's dark sides. Yeah. And stuff so you're being bombarded with that stuff. How do you personally deal with that? Do you have your own therapist that you go see, or how does that work?
It's a great question. I should have my own therapist. I used to back in grad school. Therapists don't make time for themselves a lot, even though we know that self-care is so important. I am so fortunate in that the practice that I'm in really emphasizes taking that time and noticing what's coming up for you and really working with the parts of you that are activated by the client. There's something called countertransference. You may have heard of it. It's when the therapist's own stuff in some way, shape, or form comes up for them in session. And sometimes that's perceptible by the client, and sometimes it's not. Most of the time it's not, I'd say, but it can be. And how I counteract that, I'm better at it sometimes than others. Sometimes life gets stressful and I bear a lot of my own stuff. And to keep my clients on top of that is sometimes really, really heavy. Those are the times I know that I need a break. I either go to Gettysburg for the day, or I, just take a few hours to myself, do something that is going to separate and create an actual perceptible, like palpable space between them and me. Some of my clients have been through horrific experiences. I mean, absolutely like devastating Dateline type experiences, like just unsolved mysteries level. And they, what I hold space for the most within me, I think, is not knowing how to help them, not having the answer, not having the solution, not being able to, have them leave my office every time feeling like they got something out of it. Because the reality is that's never going to be universally the case for any therapist anywhere, no matter how good or how long you've been practicing. And that's what I hold space for the most, because I so want to make a difference and so much want to be that, vessel for healing for them, and bring them to that place. And when I can't do that, I'm either disempowered or, because of skill level or time or their readiness, that's really frustrating for me. Also, when they're going through some really upsetting things like current domestic violence situations. I have a client who's in a current domestic violence situation. And I'm, as a therapist, supposed to not give the advice to leave, right? Like we talk about that. Leave. Yeah. So it's sort of like, it's really hard to hold back from saying, get the out of this relationship. Really hard to hold back. And in some ways, I think I say that. In other ways, I have to hold back from doing that and have the client make that decision, because I'm not there to give advice. I'm not there to speak on anything other than the therapeutic modality that we're working with. And I firmly believe that the client is the expert in their own life. Everybody is. You're the expert in your own life, right? Like even if you're doing some really self-destructive behaviors, right? Like you still know what's best for yourself, even if you don't think you do. It's in there. And my job is to emerge it with you, not for you, but with you. And I think, that's the long answer to your question, how I hold space for that. It does get really heavy and there's not much space. Some days there's not much space for anything else.
Hey, real quick, Carmen, if you want to talk to Denise about that, reach out to her. We'll give you a way to do that here at the end of the show. And Tom, to answer your question, yes, Denise is a resident of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So for me as a veteran, all right, as a guy who spent 8 years in service, now look, I didn't do what some of these guys have done. I wasn't in the situations that a lot of these guys were in, but I care deeply about veteran mental health. I have very close friends that I served with who were in Iraq and who were blown up and shot at, and they're, they, each of them deal with PTSD their own way. So what would you say, to a veteran, maybe somebody who's watching this, what would you have them do? If they're in a situation where they feel like they can't even talk, because look, we're tough soldiers, man. We're trained to be, hardcore, hard charging killers, right? Yeah. We don't need any help. What do you say to a guy who's thinking like that, maybe that's watching this right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do work with veterans, several of them, for PTSD. So treating vets with PTSD, I think I approach it the same way as I do others as well. It's PTSD is PTSD, but your story is your story. So, there's some things that are universal for PTSD in terms of how the condition manifests the diagnostic criteria, but it's going to be different for everybody because the stories are different. So treating a veteran. Oh, and I just want to say one thing, just because you might not think you've been through, not you personally, but anybody, just because somebody thinks they might not have been through what others have been through, that doesn't diminish your trauma or their trauma. It's still trauma. So I just want to put that out there. There's no hierarchy of trauma. Like, oh, I've reached this level. Now I can call it that. Now I do. So I want to put that out there.
Well, I mean, each soldier definitely has his own way, his own methods of dealing with what he's seen. I can speak only for myself that for whatever reason, I have a very high tolerance for dealing with, at least I think I do, traumatic experiences. Like, for instance, being a firefighter at a young age, I started at the age of 14. I've seen the insides of people at a young age. I've seen gore and suffering and death, bodies that were burned in a trailer fire and, horrible things. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just I'm built differently. It never really affected me I don't have bad dreams about it. I'm not afraid of ever seeing it again. I don't want to. I mean, I'm not lining up the first guy at the door going, oh, I hope I get something real nasty today. You know what I mean? That's not me. You see what I'm saying? But for whatever reason, it just never affected me in that aspect. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, but I'm very close friends with somebody who has seen some of the same things that I have. And it just totally has wrecked that person. It's wrecked them, and this individual talks a lot about not wanting to be here anymore, and of course, never, ever, ever. Listen, you're a veteran. There are people that you can call. There's people that you can reach out to. Even if you're not a veteran, suicide's not the answer. Okay. Taking your life is never the answer. And listen, people, we all think about it from time to time. Maybe not all of us, but there's a large group of people, okay, who on a daily basis think about this is just not worth it. I mean, think about the time that we're living in, right? We're living in very stressful times where the cost of everything has gone through the roof. Okay. The cost of living, the cost of feeding your family, these things are stressful for people. Okay. And people are getting to the point where they feel like, I just can't deal with this anymore. The answer is never, ever, ever to take yourself out of the equation. Okay. So please, if you're ever feeling that way, you can always reach out to me personally. I guarantee you can reach out to Denise and you can reach out to Monica. I mean, each and every one of us would definitely be here for you for anything like that. So please don't ever feel like that's your only way out.
I'm glad you said that, Dustin. I'm glad you said that, Dustin. Whether you were talking about, for whatever reason, you're able to know it happened and not, have the flashbacks, the dreams, this and that. And maybe it still affects you in other more quiet ways. Maybe it doesn't, right? There's no telling. The same trauma, the same thing can happen to two different people, and one develops PTSD and the other completely does not. And it's really about long and short-term memory and where each of these memories get stored. So after an event, a traumatic event, the brain begins consolidating experiences into the long-term memory. So in a non-traumatic event, the hippocampus in the brain organizes the memory in a coherent narrative that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It ends up being a story. Like that happened, then this, and finally the end. There it is. So the hippocampus functioning is, suppressed by cortisol and adrenaline and things like that when trauma happens. When trauma happens, the hippocampus cannot adequately timestamp or sequence the events normally, right? But the amygdala, I know I'm doing a lot of clinical talk, but it's all brain pieces of the brain. However, it's overactive and it encodes the emotional intensity very strongly. So it begins to separate what happened from the emotions involved, and then it lumps it all together at the same time. Trauma gets stored as sensory fragments, like sounds, images, smells, body sensations. And then the implicit memory, which is stored outside of conscious awareness, responds before the mind knows why. And then, with short-term memory during trauma, when there's trauma, the short-term memory is what your brain uses to hold information in the moment, right? It's like the here and now. Trauma disrupts that system. So when trauma is stuck in that short-term memory phase, that's when fight or flight takes over. The amygdala, which is your alarm system in the brain, becomes extremely active, and the prefrontal cortex goes offline. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for logic, decision-making, working memory, like knowing like, oh, okay, I'm really safe. This isn't an actual threat. So that prefrontal cortex is not able to access that knowledge. So you may feel like a fragmented or distorted perception of what's really happening. You can't encode these details clearly. And your body feels as if there's an actual threat, and your brain responds accordingly by saying, we need to react to that threat. What we need to do. And it doesn't. And so with trauma, when it's stored in that, non-consolidated state, it thinks that things are happening over and over and over again. Maybe not the exact same thing, but sometimes. But little things that seem mundane or everyday can create that hypervigilance and that reactivity. But some people also experience that as like fogginess or dissociation. Yeah, so that's kind of like the clinical definition of why some people experience PTSD / overactive trauma responses, and why some people are able to roll with it and not really, they're able to understand that this story is this happened to me, it's over, and it's not going to happen again. And they can move on with their days and their lives. Other people get stuck in that this happened to me, this is going to happen again, and it's over and over and over again. And it takes the littlest trigger for it to be, the littlest memory. Sometimes it's very unknown. Sometimes, most of the time, I think the triggers are unknown because they're so implicit and so encoded that they're just not, once they're there, you don't even realize what triggered you. Once they're
Yeah, see, that's the real thing, like trying to get to the bottom of what it is that's putting you in that mental state. Like trying to figure out a way, it's got to be like a maze. Like, how do you navigate those waters? Like, I would imagine that would take a lot of practice and a lot of training and a lot of self-discipline as a therapist, to kind of see the cues and try to figure out, hey, this is my way to get into this person.
Yeah. That's where EMDR comes in as an amazing pathway for people, not just veterans, but for people with healing. I also use internal family systems, IFS, which works with fragmented parts of you versus the whole of you being damaged, broken, which is often the belief. People come to therapy because they think I'm just broken, like there's something wrong with me. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you. Bottom line, there's nothing wrong with you.
So there's a lot wrong with me, honey.
Well, I know that, but I wasn't going to say that out loud.
There's a lot going on up here, buddy. No, of course I'm kidding. Not really. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. No, but I do think that there's help. I mean, for people like me, okay, who have, let's just say, bad experiences in relationships, maybe there's like a type that I've kept going towards or attracting into my life. Do you think some of that could also be because of some of this past trauma, some of this past, why is the negativity attracted to a person? Yeah,
definitely there's a connection that if you were one of my clients, I would really explore more deeply with you, particularly like the childhood stuff, who your caregiver relationships, attachments, what's your attachment style? I'm a big believer in attachment theory. What was your family culture like? What role did you play within the family? What was your, job to do within the family, so to speak? Who are you now? So a lot of that, especially in families that were very chaotic, a lot of times there's at least one of the children within the sibling relationship who is designated as the caregiver of the parent. Typically, it's the oldest child. There's different roles within the family, like the golden child, the scapegoat. the
Black
clown.
sheep.
What? The black sheep.
The black sheep.
The black sheep. And the black sheep holds a lot of shame. The black sheep is the one that feels the deepest amount of shame. And shame is so self-destructive. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt is, I've done something bad. I've done something that is wrong. And shame is, I'm a bad person.
I feel like the black sheep of the family, but I don't have the feelings that I did something bad. I don't feel that way personally you're referring to as like the black sheep. The black sheep, in my opinion, and what my experience has been, is that I'm just the one that's been pushed aside.
Right. But that's why it's shame connected, right? Because if you were pushed aside, if you were pushed aside rather, then that means you're not worthy of being within the fold, right? So the black sheep is outside the fold. And the reason that they're outside the fold is because they don't deserve to be in, and they're not lovable enough. If they were lovable enough, they could be in the fold with the family. That's why it's shame, not guilt.
Hey, Jack. I wish I'd have known you were in here, bud.
Oh, hi, Jack.
Yeah, so what's that?
I said, Jack, tell us where you're from.
Yeah, hey, Jack, where are you at right now? He walks in the room behind you. So there's one, relationships, that's good. That's a good one. Took me 22 years to finally open up enough to allow someone into my life. And hopefully, Ray, that person supports you and, your past helps you work through those types of things. That's what a partnership really is all about. Having somebody that's going to be able to accept you. He's out at the fire pit. There you go. He's probably got a delicious glass of yumminess with him too.
Yes,
but, of course. But the point is, all right, having a healthy, sustainable relationship, and it's being with somebody that lifts you up and supports you and helps you through some of these dark things that you might be going through, helps you navigate the waters. If you can't find somebody that does that, then you have to make a change. You've got to, this is what Monica has talked about before. To me, it's making a decision. And the decision is do I want to continue to stay in that situation, or do I want to improve my situation, make it better? And you have to take steps to be able to do that. So I'm talking directly to Ray here. And you mentioned earlier, Ray, that you're kind of on a hamster wheel of pain. I want you to understand that we're not ignoring your comments. We're talking through all this, and I hope we're hitting home with some of these topics. But everybody's on a hamster wheel. It's just the choice that you make of what that hamster wheel represents. All right. Are you running in the direction of something that's going to make you happier, more fulfilled, and better? Or are you stuck in that that cycle of, negativity, uncomfortableness in life and things that have happened to you? So this is where people like Monica and
Denise is able to identify and start slowly working with an individual to get them, because we are, especially the older we get, the more we're dug in deep. And so to think that I know people my age who say people don't change, this is how they are. And nothing frustrates me more, because that is absolutely a choice. It's to make a change could be the hardest thing you could ever do. To make a change that's going to change your life, you have to make hard decisions. You need to make sad decisions. You need to make decisions that will break you for a little bit, but in the end, it's going to build you up. Denise can talk more about that. She's the professional, but it's really about recognizing that what you continue to do is not working for you anymore, and then identifying what it is you need to do different to get you on the path to where you want to be. Exactly.
And what I tell my clients all the time is change for change's sake is not good. It's not the same as just changing. That's not healing. Change for changes. You have to know your why. And you have, and you really have to know why you want that change. And there's a lot to that why question, right? And I think, because people can want to change, but they're not changing for the right reasons. So change for change's sake is not good, like I said.
That's great advice, honestly.
Mhm.
You know, I was sitting here saying, I want to do this, this, and this, or whatever. But why do you want that? Like, what's brought you to this? You've really got to come to grips with it. And the hardest part, I think, for people to make any decision that's like that is who's going to get hurt on the other side of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of why I think people stay stuck in maybe not good relationships or, you know, the negative thing. It's because they're afraid of who they're going to hurt in the process. Speaking from experience.
Yeah. And that speaks to like a capacity for empathy and love, which I build upon. And if you're, you know, worried about who's going to get hurt in the process of your change, that's something that should be talked about, right? But it shouldn't necessarily hold them back from changing. But it's definitely like a skill that I want to build upon, because it means that they have a capacity to love others. And that can be also really healing and shows post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is growing past your trauma. And there's usually 5 domains of that. But connecting with other people is a sign of post-traumatic growth. And when you want that, sometimes that's a catalyst for the right kind of change. You know what I mean?
An interesting perspective.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think that, thank you. And I think that, you know, when Dustin, you were talking about like, why do I make the same decisions over and over and over again? You know, it's that there's your question. There's your reflection question. What's making you make the same decisions? And I kind of, you know, this is kind of a diversion from that, but I kind of bristle when people say you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else, because that implies that you have to feel a certain way about yourself before you are lovable. You know, like before you'll find somebody that loves you, you have to first love yourself. No, you are worthy of love, regardless of what you think yourself, you know, loving yourself, liking yourself, whatever. Your worthiness of being loved and accepted and cherished and valued is not based on anything you do or do not do. It is your inherent value. So loving yourself will come naturally when you accept not just the, you know, functioning, wonderful parts of you, but the growing edges of you that you once called broken. Right?
Yeah. So, let's just read what Ray said for a second. Changes are hard to do when you're stuck, but with the right people behind you, you can make things work. Yeah. 100%. Really, your team, you know, your team is, you got to have a solid
system.
team.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, 100%.
but sometimes when you are feeling a certain way and you're holding certain pains, you look for people that will substantiate and validate those pains and help you perpetuate them. So the right people is a subjective term that you will work out with your therapist.
Boy, it's a shame we don't have another hour.
I know. Can I ask one question that I've been kind of wondering this whole time?
Yeah.
Carmen talked about level 2 Reiki and your level 3. What are the differences?
So level 2 is when you can, so there's 3 levels. Level 1 is when you can do self Reiki and Reiki on yourself, which is super helpful. I do it all the time. But it's basically hands-on healing for yourself. And Dustin, get your mind out of the gutter.
I had said nothing. I didn't even make an expression. Thank you. You just threw me under the bus. I'm sitting here thinking about Jack right now, actually. I wonder what Jack thinks about all this. My wife is crazy.
No, I love that. I love that you're able to work on yourself. That's
yes, everybody can do that. And
that song did come in my head. I touch myself. Whatever.
I want you to love me. Yeah, that's good.
Level 2.
Anyways.
Level 2 is when you are attuned. So I should say that each level you are attuned by a master. So I'm a Reiki master, so I can teach and provide the attunements. The attunements are at the end of training what activate your ability to work with energy, so to speak. And that's a Reiki tradition going back to the 1850s, probably before that. But the Reiki that I practice the way it's currently practiced in modern times goes back to 1850. Level 2 is when you are attuned to do Reiki on another person, so within your physical space. And master level is when you can do Reiki at a distance. So somebody not in your physical space, like whether it's on a Zoom or not even at the same time, like just, hey, I'll do Reiki on you sometime this week, and distance Reiki like that. And I'm also a master / teacher, so I can teach Reiki. I've never actually taught anyone Reiki. I just haven't had the time, but I am qualified and certified to teach Reiki to other people and provide the attunement. So that's the difference between the three.
So what kind of hands-on Reiki do you do with Jack, huh? Does he let you?
Reiki? I wouldn't call it Reiki.
Alrighty then.
I have done Reiki on him. Maybe he can chime in about what that was like for him. It's been a while.
Yeah, Jack, chime in. I want to kind of hear about your experience with hands-on Reiki. Huh? Yeah. Jack's a great guy.
Yes.
I love Jack. Jack is good people.
The way that I do it, honestly, like even with my own husband, the way that I do it is very by the book. Very, yes, I do get handsy. It's a handsy thing. It's, hands. But I do it very by the book. So like if he's saying I want Reiki, I'm not going to make it sexual, because to me, that's like, this is what I do. This is Reiki.
But I guess you can, right? I mean, I guess really Reiki can be a sexual experience.
Well, you have a chakra that is.
Yeah. It's called the root chakra. I mean, that's in the pelvis.
I'm pretty shocked when I get it. I'm sorry.
Heyo.
Whoa. Notice up here at the top corner, it says parental advisory for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, Denise, thank you a million times for coming on tonight, and appreciate you sharing all this. Tell everybody where they can find you. If it's your socials, website, tell us where we can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So thanks, Dustin. So I work for a private practice. It's called Phoenix Trauma Center. It's in Media, Pennsylvania. So Dustin I think can you put it in the chat? Maybe, I don't know if you can do the
let me see if I can grab.
You can. Anybody can message me privately, and I'll hook you up with intake at my private practice. I usually do the intake myself if somebody reaches out to me directly. I am limited to the state of Pennsylvania. However, I can do telehealth for folks living in New Jersey and Delaware also. Okay. I can do in-person or telehealth in Pennsylvania. So it's a matter of what your preference is. My rate is $160 an hour. I'm pretty transparent about that. And it is private pay. We don't accept insurance, but I can provide documentation for insurance reimbursement if that's something that they will reimburse for. So I do have openings. My website will not, for some reason, it's not updated. That says that I have openings, but I do have openings in my practice for telehealth. So if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to work with folks.
Okay, so there you go, guys. Right there at the bottom of the screen, that is Denise's link to get to the Phoenix. And listen, guys, do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be like me and be stubborn and say therapy doesn't work. That's not entirely true. You have to give it a chance. I need to figure out a way to get past my own blocks to do that. Listen, I'm not afraid to admit it, that I'm that guy where I've said therapy's not going to do anything for me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have had therapy sessions with, military therapists, but it's a different game. I think they're just so used to dealing with different soldiers and things, like it's just never been on that level. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. I don't know what else to say. I'm honestly honored that we've had this opportunity. Guys,
thank you, Denise.
Thank you for watching.
The honor is all mine.
Appreciate it very much. Stick around for a second, guys. And guys, I'm not sure what we're doing for the next show. Keep an eye on Hizzy's Place. Follow me over on YouTube, guys. We will be doing more shows on a regular basis. I'm going to start lining some things up here. So stay tuned, guys. I appreciate you all. Have a good one. Take care.